and sign you up for a monthly subscription. And that's like, let's just say, keep the math simple, $50 a month. And he goes like, the problem with that is you only have $50 to acquire a customer. Every customer, you can't spend more than $50 to acquire that customer, right? And that's if, so it's like, every 30 days, if you only have $100, you can only acquire 2 customers,
right,
every 30 days, because the model is not a good model. The model doesn't really lend you the ability to spend money in order to get new customers, because for every $100 that you spend, you could only get 2, because it's $50 a customer. And on top of that, it has to be less than that. Let's say it's like, if you get a customer that gives you 50, you could only spend the max you can spend on the ad is $49, because then you'll make $1, right? So it's like, that's a bad model. So what he did with his gym launches was he spent on, instead of selling a monthly subscription, he did like a 90-day fitness transformation that was like $500. And now, instead of spending $49 to get ready to pay $50, he ran ads on a $500 990-day offer, and now he can spend $200, $300. He gave himself so much more room, because if he makes one sell, he gets more. And then he did a whole bunch of other things, like adding upsells and product and other. But fundamentally, what he did was he got the offer to give him a lot of liquid money so that he had more flexibility. And I always thought about that. Like, I don't know the details of y'all's business, but the thing that I always thought about would be a good idea is doing what you're doing, but niching down on just luxury, like on one specific type of luxury item. Like, imagine, I'll give you an example. Just like a random example. Imagine if you somehow were able to be the only ones that can get Porsche parts into Japan.
Right.
There's not a lot of Porsches in Japan relative to other cars. But if you're able to get a good deal, you can charge 10K, 20, you can charge a crazy markup per part, and it's like, that's way better than trying to buy something that costs 10 cents to make and then sell it for like a quarter.
Right.
Because you have to sell millions of those to be worth your time.
So I'll give you, if I'm following correctly, I know exactly what you mean. Part of the thing that I want to do is that so we're starting with travel products, and then also we're going to be doing like women beauty products. I don't want to really reveal too much right now online, because we're recording, but for the travel products, I noticed that if you go,
you think people are listening to us?
But it's gonna be like, because we're broadcasting, it's gonna always be there.
I didn't know if you were live or recording or anything.
Well, because I figured, you mentioned that you wanted to do streaming and both recording, so I'm gonna just do that for now.
No, that's fine. I thought we're still 100% off, so I was okay.
Oh, no, so. But you'll get the idea. So basically, for the travel products, we're gonna do first, because I feel like it's the easiest entry point. That's the thing that I'm having issues finding profit margins. But I noticed that when some of these listings, the way they sell like multiple of the same item, because it's like, they think, people will want more. But what I was thinking was making the product look a little bit more premium, and then making it smaller in quantity, so that way it weighs less to ship, which is really helpful for us. And because it looks more premium and feels more premium, we'll be able to mark up the price a little bit more higher. That way we could, just have enough, profit margin. Camera went off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think
it's just
anything that increases the margin is a good idea, and luxury premium is a proven way of doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, I think that makes sense. It's just there's different ways where something becomes premium, And there's like two types of premium that, well, there's probably more types, but right now I'm thinking of two types of premium. There's premium from scarcity,
Yeah.
and then there's premium from like phenomenal storytelling.
Yeah.
Phenomenally Premium from phenomenal storytelling is definitely better and more durable, but it's like extremely hard to do.
Yeah.
And I think like historically, Apple's been really good at storytelling
right.
as how they set themselves apart, right? But then there's other types, and I think this is the one that I would focus on if I was in your shoes, which is just like premium through scarcity. I don't know how the beauty market is in Japan, but I know like there's a lot of great quality advanced Korean beauty products that don't make it to America.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
people in America go crazy over. And there it's like you don't even need, like, the story's already told for you. Like, this
Yeah.
is from Korea. This is a desired product in Korea. There's not much more that you have to do to
Right.
convince someone that this
This
worth
is yeah.
paying way more for less.
You know, I do want to, like, I do have those ideas set in my roadmap, but the problem is my main focus right now is to just have some kind of cash flow going. So even if I'm making like dollars, like $1 or $2 off of each unit, to me that's a win. You know, just to create some kind of cash flow, so that way I have something on record showing that, you know, we're able to do it. But yeah, no, totally. I have again, I don't want to get too detailed right now, but I have some stuff that, you know, that I notice in some of the products that I want to sell. I notice that there's something missing that we could step in and kind of come in from a different angle. But yeah, again, it's one of those things where I'm not really ready to do that just yet, because I just want to kind of just start getting, because I just want to get the experience first too, right? Like, I want to see how the listings work, and I want to see how people react to it, see some data, you know, and just see some kind of cash flow going in and out, you know, being bought and sold.
I think as soon as you can, going higher margins is incredible, because that's, to me, like, when I hear you say cash flow, nothing's better cash flow than a higher margin item, because you can, like, you said $1, but realistically, like, $1 is enough to get to the other points. It's giving you some experience.
Yeah.
You're getting more familiar with the tooling. But $1, you'd have to sell $1 a couple thousand times over every month
to even make it worth it.
For you, where you can sell one high margined item
and sell like 50 of them. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, and I'll even say that, like, selling one item at 5,000 is just as hard in the beginning as selling one item for $1. Like, it's the same hard, but one is just gonna, like, completely open your mind. I think about that a lot, right? Because it's like selling a Toyota is probably just as difficult as selling a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Right? It's someone coming in both scenarios. You have to figure out if they're qualified. So you go through a qualification. There's a certain desire or a need that they're looking to be met. You have to uncover that. Then you have to, like, sell to that. It's kind of like, it's the same exact thing, except the commission on a Ferrari is way nicer than the commission on, like, a Toyota.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you know,
maybe
it's one of those. It's, for me, I totally get what you're saying. It's just that for me, I don't want to create something without some kind of information. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, again, and also I don't want to, even if it's a small margin for me, you know, just being able to see that it's working, I need to, then I'll be like, all right, I'm going to put a little bit more money into it and just come back with, like, something more, you know, higher margin in that sense.
So the difference for you between a low and high margin item is that you have to go out of your own pocket more.
I would say that, yes, because right now, even if we do with low margins, it's not going to really get us to the higher premium product. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we're selling fucking dime bags to try to get a fucking half a pound. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my language, but
no, I didn't know that you had to go out of pocket. I would imagine, well,
Well, this is
my head.
well, real quick. The other reason why I wanted to start creating cash flows, there are plenty of grants in Japan that can get qualify. Like if we qualify for those grants, we could get pretty much like a nice little chunk of money to put back into the business. That's another reason why I also want to like just show some kind of proof that we're doing something rather than just waiting for the right moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But I see like that could be true in both scenarios. And we keep saying premium, but it doesn't have to be premium. I'm like a high margin item. So meaning like an item where you make, let's say 50% or more off of it.
Yeah.
So it's like if it sells for 100, you get $50 versus, because an expensive premium item could also be low margin, right? Like you can sell something for $1,000, but it costs $950 to make.
Yeah,
that's still a low margin item that you sold for a high price point. So for me, it was more about thinking about like high margin item, and you can sell a high margin item can be $5.
Yeah,
but if it costs, let's say it costs 1 penny to make this item in China, but you can sell it for $5. You just made $4.99. That's a crazy markup.
Because if you sell 1,000 of those, you got a $4,000 profit right there, right?
I was trying to think more about like what are high margin items that you can sell, because even again, I don't know the details of those grants or the experience, but like not all experience is equal, and good experience, I think is. This is what you want. It's like experience that's like useful. And those grants, again, I don't know the details of them, but if they have any like competency when they're doing their reviews, or maybe it's not that kind of grant, maybe it's just open to just a business.
Right.
They'll be like, I don't know, man, there's risk here. You have to go out of pocket $3 to make $3.10.
Right.
Or they could be like, you go out of pocket $3, but you make $50. Like, we're going to give you the grant, or we're going to give you the funding because you have a scalable business model that has really good margins. We recently started selling product at the barbershop, and we intentionally went with products that were selling in the open market at a certain price point, and packaging that conveyed a certain type of personalization.
Yeah.
And then we made availability intentionally limited so that we can hit the margins that made sense for us, right? Because it was like, oh, we can sell this for $10, but for $10, it's not worth our time. But if we could find a way to justify this being $30, now it's worth our time.
Right. I'm going to throw some factors in here. I'm actually, you got me thinking, because I did find a product that does sell high margin. The reason why I stood away from it is that because of the budget that we have, the amount of units we would get is very little. Now, before I even get to that, which that might be consideration regarding to what you're saying, because even if we get less units, it's still worth doing, right? But before I even get into that, the reason for this kind of type of business, it's a nightmare to find higher margin items, is because that generally means it's either the item's heavier, the item's fragile, or it's electronic. There's like a lot of things that come into factors where it makes it very much with Amazon, there's a very strict vetting process in terms of what you can sell and can't sell. I was told that stay away from electronics in the beginning and stay away from fragile products. So that part of it is kind of what made me kind of like, constrained what I'm looking for in terms of like what's the perfect product to start off with. You know what I mean? But to go back to what you were saying, there is a product that I did find that does sell at a high margin. It's just that I wasn't sure how many units would be worth enough to even get. But thinking about it now, I might as well just see what they say about it. Like if I could just even get like 10 of them and see if I could sell 10,
If you're aiming for experience early on, then I think the amount of units may not matter. unless you're specifically trying to see if you're good at volume.
Yeah.
But I don't, it doesn't sound like that's explicitly what you're trying to do. So this is interesting, right? So it's like this is the game that you're trying to play. You're trying to find items that have a certain percentage of margin.
Well, not necessarily. It's more.
and-
It's more as we don't want to sell electronics because that can be pretty much shut down once it gets through the door. Electronics is very difficult to send because you're talking about like lithium batteries, and you know you have to do a lot of like So that's one of the reasons. The other thing is weight and fragility. So like if the product is something that's like fragile, if you're selling, you know, if I get 10 of them or like 20 of them, 5 of them could be destroyed, and that could just pretty much ruin my whole, you know, profit margin right there. So we kind of just want to avoid that for now. And then the weight thing is another issue too, because like that just really brings up the cost, and it doesn't make it worth to sell because there won't be no profit to be made in that sense.
Yeah, but all things to me are part of that, right? Like finding a high margin item.
Yeah.
Because what I was going to finish saying was,
Yeah.
if you have a high margin item that has to overcome, because people just think high margin or like margins in general, they just think like how much it costs to make, right? But really, when you want to look at the entire like life of the product,
the chain supply, right?
And so you want to find a high margin item that has to maintain its high margin after a series of like obstacles.
Yep.
One obstacle is like
Correct.
Amazon approved or Amazon like desired.
Shipping.
Another obstacle is shipping, weight considerations. Another obstacle is like
Getting
the
to the customer.
durability of the product.
Right, getting to the customer.
This kind of like I also, so I'm going to finish my thought, but I also want to just add on that like I think every reason why you shouldn't choose or look for a product is actually an opportunity for why you should look for a product in that area, because that's going to be lower competition and higher opportunity if you're willing to kind of like think about it, or if you're willing to try to find a creative solution for it. I'll give you an example. Here's like this product may not exist. I want to give you an example why maybe you shouldn't stay away for a product just because of how fragile it is. Let's say you have 10, and let's say you're right. If you have 10 and 5 of them have statistically, you assume half of them break during shipping,
right?
And that'll kill your profit margin. But what if you had an item that cost you $10 to purchase per item, but you can sell it for $1,000? Again, these are made up numbers. You can sell it for $1,000. Even if 9 of them break, selling one covers the loss of the other 9.
Totally.
And so, you know, I think if people generally are avoiding certain types of items because of factors like that, I would be trying to find items that people avoid that are so strong that they overcome all the other issues that might be with it. That only because there's less people looking for that kind of item, but you kind of avoid the saturation, or you sort of avoid the human competition aspect of it.
I mean, for me, I totally agree with you. I would do that. The only thing that for me I'm holding back is I want something that I'm kind of like doing a product that I'm selling at a low margin, just to have something in the background. So even if I take a risk, like, you know, I have something still going, because I just haven't started yet. That's my thing, you know what I mean? Like, I want to like just get in the door and just start doing it. That's my whole thing. But
yeah, if the blocker is action, then taking some action is better.
Yeah, I'd rather just start regardless of what, you know, margin comes out of it, because I totally agree with you. I think I took those words even before we started discussing this. You know, we had this discussion before, not necessarily specifically what you're saying now, but you said like, you know, basically in the time of crisis, you know, kind of look into where people are avoiding, because the obvious thing is like, oh, we shouldn't do that because it's pretty risky or whatever the case may be. And then like you're kind of just in this like kind of spectrum of like everybody trying to avoid it, and this might be an opportunity for you to jump in and kind of just like overcome that. I totally agree with that.
You overcome it, and also eventually the market dynamics change. And if you have a head start, then like if I've been avoiding sneakers because of the import,
right,
100 tariff or whatever, but you were like, you know, I'm gonna do it anyway. It's not gonna be as good as a deal, but I'm gonna try to make some sneakers work. Then when the market opens up again, I'm starting from zero, and you've already been in conversation, right? So you already have a head start. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of value to being bold when other people are retreating.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm gonna take, obviously, you know, I always take your words into consideration. You did actually give me an idea in the midst of all this, which I'm going to look into after we're done with this. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out, because I also just like decided we may switch to the Japan market versus America for now, because it's just kind of crazy with all the tariffs and shipping and stuff like that. Because there are sourcing agents out right now that are willing to do DDP, which is duty paid, meaning that they will take care of the fees of the tariffs, but the shipping's so high, so it really doesn't even matter, you know. So it's a tricky game, but I'm just like determined to find that little, you know, sweet spot that, even though with all the shit that's going on, we're able to like make a nice little chunk of money. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think doing is the only way that you're going to know what works.
Right.
And I'm not convinced that you have to necessarily always win the American market. It's a huge market, and there's a lot of value in the American economy, but we're not talking like, you're not trying to be the best in the world at this, where certain markets are unavoidable. You can be a 6-7 figure earner just catering to the Japanese market. Or really, this is true for any country.
Right.
You know, when I went to Peru, to give you an example, when I was down there, I thought about that too. I was like, I wonder what startups make a lot of sense in this country,
right,
that have already been proven and well thought out and researched in America, but they just haven't been able to penetrate. Because if you're thinking about American scale, it's very easy to overlook Peru as a country, right? But they have banking, they have needs, they have restaurants, they have healthcare, they have fashion, they have music, they have art, right? So an idea that may work well in America but struggle to survive because of the competitive landscape might do well in Peru or Japan or somewhere else.
I mean,
and you just tweak it enough so that it resonates with that audience, and then you can still be very successful,
right,
while avoiding the mistakes.
Yeah, because that's what I mean. Because nowadays, the real way of doing it is just finding your niche, right? It's not really just trying to satisfy everybody. I rather try a niche that I know guarantee that I'm gonna have 1,000 people that's gonna buy, versus trying to guess 100,000 that's willing to buy or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the numbers we're really bad with numbers, man. Like visualizing numbers and like really understanding it. But you know, the thing that's stuck with me for many years is that in the United States, 5, maybe 10, let's just say 5 million or less, it's still considered like an extremely small business.
Yeah.
That's not even like a blimp
That's
on
crazy.
the IRS radar, right?
That's crazy.
So think about that, like a small business is like 5 million or less. So it's like you can, in theory, be a small like merchant in Japan that's doing this and still be making $2 or $3 million. Like that's still tiny in the
that's considered tiny, right?
Thing, but that's like more than enough to make this worth it for you to do, right?
That's the reality.
And I always think about that when people are talking about niching down. Am I limiting myself? Am I blocking? It's just like, dude, if you niche down and you still end up having a $15 million, $10 million business, that's still incredible.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's incredible, right? So yeah, that's why I think niching down is more common, because people are starting to realize you can create a unique experience for a very specific group of person, and niching down is still a 6-7 figure opportunity.
Right.
You know, it may not be Facebook scale, but these scales these companies, they're in the trillions, the billions. You know, like, all right, that's fine. Like, this is not a $1 billion idea. Is it a $10 million idea? Because that's still fucking good. That's really fucking good, actually.
Right. I mean, you look at even like a small business, like a small like store, and they have like 5 employees. You know, at least guarantee they have to pay their yearly salary, right? So if you got 5 people, you're thinking about like 20 to 30,000 a year, and that's almost 100,000 above 100,000. You know what I mean? Like, and just to have employees.
I think about that every single day, dude.
Right.
Let's just say average engineer salary. Let's just say 150. Let's just like, some make way more, some might make a little less. Just put like 150.
Right.
If you're on a dev team of 4, that's 600K a year.
Right there. That's almost $1 million.
That's salary.
Yeah.
That's not even taxes to the government on top. That's not healthcare that you have to pay out. That's not other benefits.
And think about like other fees that you have to take care of, like overhead, like having an office and all this other shit, right? Like equipment,
and stuff. Yeah, and this, so just to have a small 4 or 5 people is tiny engineering team. It's already $1 million operation per year.
And then you look at somebody like Apple,
product, data.
Bro, it's like you said, it's hard to conceptualize how much money is coming in and out when you're running a business. You know what I mean?
Even small ones, right? And that's why, like, my theory for AI, I'll tell you where I think AI is going. Which, if this does happen, I hope, like, I actually think I like this future more.
Okay.
But we'll see. I mean, AI is going to change so many things in so many ways, specifically entrepreneurship and business and employment. People think like it's going to lay off everyone at these big companies. And that is probably true-ish. Yeah. I think companies are going to lay off people because it's something that big businesses do and have done throughout history. And now they can point to a reason that can let them do layoffs without getting backlash.
Yeah.
So I think some of it is going to be justified. Some of it won't be justified. I think that big company wave will take a hit. But my prediction is that instead of having, let's say, Figma.
Okay.
Right. The design
Figma. The design collaborator.
Designers to design. So having Figma with 1,000 engineers, what we're gonna have is maybe 100 small design companies, each with 10 engineers. So these I just think the monolith company breaks. And what we have is an abundance. Because now with AI, I don't need 100 engineering team. Right. I may just need 10. I may just need 10 plus AI. So what I think we're going to see is, instead of people just being laid off doing nothing, we're going to see a whole bunch of new companies start that'll just run lean. There'll just be way more small businesses with very small teams instead of a couple big businesses with massive teams.
And to be honest, having more compact, small teams is much more efficient than having.
It's better
because you know, and it's more. Because you know about big companies and board meetings and all that, you have to deal with stakeholders, and there's a lot of bureaucracy behind that. Having that part of it,
it's unfulfilling.
Yeah, having that part cut out is actually really beneficial. And in fact, I believe that it allows the smaller business owners with their team to be more creative and being able to do what they want, right? It's like watching these video game companies and those big video game companies, and like they turn out to be trash because deep down, before they became big time, they were doing fun stuff, but they have to kind of like stop it because of the stakeholder element into that.
I think the way that I want to compare it, and maybe this comparison makes zero sense, and it's not nuanced.
Yeah,
it's not a nuanced comparison or nothing.
Yeah,
it's just like in my head, the way I think about big companies being broken out into a whole bunch of new crop of small companies with small teams. So it's like the workforce stays similar. There's just a lot more innovative, smaller teams in different companies than one big one. The way I like to compare it is TV and YouTube.
Yeah.
So instead of a few media giants
Yeah.
controlling what series get funded, there's just a bunch of small creators just creating now. And those small creators don't need MSNBC or Fox numbers. They just need 100,000 views, and they can like earn a good living, a good salary, or whatever, right? And like we're seeing a fun, exactly. We're seeing now people choosing to watch a whole bunch of content from a whole bunch of small studios or small creators that are just like 3 or 4 people versus going to a couple big media brands that curates, you know, every show that you're possible that you could watch.
And then you think about one of the biggest gatekeepers is distribution, right? We don't even have to worry about that because you got TikTok and all these other fucking social platforms that you could just promote your work.
Social platforms, these small teams will start distributing, and like we will know a lot of them exist because their algorithms are, their content is going to be in front of the million to 10 million people that they actually care about, and they build a product for or whatever.
It's interesting. Damn, I kind of like lost my thought, but I do. Oh no, that's what I was gonna say. I think the other thing I want to add to that too, and I think you know better than I do because I just seen it from the outside, but how many people in fucking tech firms that are just useless, you know what I'm saying? Like I heard stories where people are just like there because they got brought in by somebody that they are cool with, you know what I mean? And they're really not contributing to anything, you know, they're taking vacations all the time and just kind of just abusing the system of getting into the, you know, well, that was during the tech bubble, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think like, here's how I feel about that. I think that at scale of the internet, meaning like we're all connected on social media and online and everything, you can find anything that's true.
Yeah.
Right? You can be like, you know, you just be like, oh, this group of people does this thing, and you can find one example of that exists. And then we feel that that is reflective of the majority of the experience. So like one, I do think there are people that were abusing their job in tech. I think there's some people that do that today, but I also think that like that is probably smaller than what a lot of people assume. In terms of how I understood what you said, which was like, this is an individual who's abusing the system. I think that's probably smaller than I do think there's a lot of people that were wasting time. But I do think abusers were probably smaller than we think. What I do think, and I think this is true for all industries, is that what I actually do think is the part of the problem of big companies or any companies at scale is that they have to rely on justifying their size. And they just create a bunch of bullshit work that doesn't really matter. And it's just middle managers justifying their management team, justifying their budget.
Satisfy stakeholders and such.
Stuff, right. So like, I think big companies are insanely inefficient because they have so much money and they have so much size and so much market share that they can just run inefficiently. And I think that the majority of the people, even the ones that work hard, the ones actually showing up and working hard at these big companies, so not even the ones that are abusing the time, but the ones that are genuinely showing up and even working hard, most of their work doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it just does not matter. Like I worked at a big banking company and I was on the team that I do think there was maybe 1 or 2 products that mattered. But then there was a bunch of other products that if we just did not do that, I don't think anything changes for that banking institution. Nothing. Nothing changed. Right?
It's so huge.
And if you wanted to change that, there's no visibility. There's too many layers. There's too much structure. It's impossible to know if you're even able to shift from doing something that doesn't matter to doing something that matters. Google is one of my favorite examples. I know people that work at Google, and you know, this is not even something you need someone to work at Google to know this. You can look at this from the outside. If you look at all the products that Google makes, there's maybe less than 5 that actually make money. Right? Ads make money. Chrome, probably at the Chrome. I don't know if Chrome makes money in its like market share dominance and the data it collects. I don't know if it actually makes dollars,
Yeah.
but I'm still gonna put in there. Android, I know again it's open source, blah blah blah, but like as a platform, it's dominance. There's like 4 or 5 things at Google that are actually dominant that people can work on, and then there's a whole bunch of shit all throughout Google that just burn money and doesn't matter, right? And it's inefficient and it's worthless, and there's no point to it. And this, to me, this is true for almost every single company, and I think that's the product of big company, and that's something small companies typically don't get into because they don't have the size or the budget or the resources
to
waste
do that,
time,
right?
Because they'll go out of business, right? They're just, you have to be more efficient when you're smaller. So I think a lot of these people that you're describing, even the ones that were malicious and the ones that weren't malicious, a lot of them were just like, well, even if I want to do good work,
You can't.
it's just, there's nothing.
It goes back to the bureaucracy bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, these companies are too big. What they're doing doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you were at Google working on the Jamboard, there's a product at Google, it's discontinued now. It's called the Jamboard.
Okay.
It was like a whiteboarding
It's a terrible
app.
name.
It was a whiteboarding app that was accompanied an actual whiteboard that businesses could buy. It was like a $30,000 whiteboard for businesses, and like it was cool. Like you can draw on it or automatically like
generate,
put it on the website.
Right.
But it was like, who's this for? This is for nobody.
Yeah.
This is nothing. This is not like, this doesn't matter.
And they're putting
right?
like thousands of like hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, maybe even millions into it.
We're putting definitely millions, because if
That's
you're
crazy.
Google and you put put a team of 10,
oh yeah,
that's
right,
already
right,
10
yeah, right. Yeah, that's already a million. Yeah.
Right? That's the salary, right? So, and then there's manufacturing there because you're making an actual product like that. That was a multi-million-dollar project that just did not matter.
Right.
So here's the question though: if you know that you work at a big company and this is bullshit that doesn't fucking matter, or you can do this bullshit in like a few hours, should you just cosplay as a busy worker? Or should you just be like, no, fuck it, I'm just gonna fucking chill. I'm just gonna like,
that's true.
People may not like it, but I'm just like, there's a difference between your surgeon slacking off and the fucking worker at Jamboard slacking off. Like, this guy doesn't do anything important anyway.
Yeah.
Like, what do we want from this person? Like, do we want them to work harder at something that just, no matter how hard they work, is not going to do anything? Because they're not the right piece of the puzzle to make this make sense. They're just a worker. So for me, when I saw that tech stuff, even outside tech, I think like, oh yeah, that's just poor leadership and poor company structure.
Right.
Because the individual worker, especially at a big company, they can't do nothing.
Yeah.
Like, they don't make these decisions.
Right. They're not putting up the money.
I do think though, if you have a nice situation and you go online and you try to present it away, then you have to accept that the internet is going to do what the internet does. I think that's very foolish of those people to go online and try to provoke the rest of the world in the way that they did by doing that kind of stuff.
And going back to the whole how AI is going to revolutionize small businesses, it really makes, if that's, I also agree with that theory. If that theory is true, that's going to be interesting, because then we're going to start seeing more quality things for, groups of different niches. People like you and me that have like certain tastes for stuff, we're going to start seeing more stuff of. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the TikTok I sent you. I mean, this is not that close to that, but we've been seeing these guerrilla AI doing like IRL streams and content. They're like cosplaying as like streamers and stuff. Yeah, I just saw one where like as Dominican gorillas, one Dominican gorilla had a fucking bandana and shit. I forgot what they were doing, but it was just like, it's so hilarious, because like you're literally prompting AI to put the language like Dominican, how Dominican speaks, as to like a different Latino speaks, and it's just like, this is so like something that we would only enjoy because obviously you're Dominican and I've been in New York, so I know how they talk. So I'm just like, this is so like, I could literally watch this like all day, you know what I mean? And I feel like going back to your point, yeah, if you had an entertainment company that's huge, we're talking about like, you know, like Hollywood level, they would never make nothing like that. One, because it could be kind of dangerous for them, right? Because it might be taken the wrong way. And two, it's like they don't see the money in that because they don't really, they probably don't even know like the difference. Like let's be real, those big CEO stakeholders, they don't even probably even know the difference between what a Latino is and a Puerto Rican is, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's I feel like we're gonna start seeing, like, I'm agreeing to what you're saying. I think we're gonna start seeing more niche stuff, and that's actually quite interesting.
We've seen that in content a lot, and I think we're gonna start seeing that everywhere and everything.
Right, just in forms. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I understand what you're getting at. Yeah, because I feel like I would hope to see that with video games too, because right now it's like it's terrible right now in the gaming industry. Like a lot of these, you know, I think Fortnite's a good example. They followed the. If you really see how the infrastructure works, they work like a tech company. They constantly ask for feedback when you play the game. There's, you know,
they depend on reoccurring revenue.
Yeah.
They're basically a SaaS, right?
Yeah.
Or like subscription service, right?
So the interesting thing about it is that, well, not really interesting. The sad thing about it is a lot of companies now are following that. A good example is one of my favorite games is Tekken. Tekken kind of entered the live service spectrum, but now that they're in that spectrum, the original director, he has to answer to stakeholders, big, that are putting a lot of money into it, and a lot of decisions that's being made is like very terrible. They actually did an update recently that everybody got pissed off, like everybody, and this is like the first time we've seen something like this. So it's kind of sad to see that, because it's I
don't know if they ever figured it out.
Yeah.
But I remember like 10 years ago. I don't even remember, but I remember Blizzard was doing the same bullshit with Diablo for a while.
Blizzard's done now, man. Blizzard's done. They're slowly
the next Diablo game.
I mean, to be honest, they're coming back a little bit decent with Overwatch. I think they're trying to fix shit up now. But like where they used to be with when they were blowing up with World of Warcraft, they're not anything close to that anymore. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now, and I hope that we see that kind of same, based on what you're theorizing, I hope that we see that with video games as well, because it's kind of terrible right now.
If the idea is that like if it becomes if with AI it becomes, let's say 50%, 80%, whatever percent less to produce a certain minimum quality of a game.
Yeah.
You could make the argument companies like Blizzard and Fortnite are going to light people off, which is very true.
Yeah.
That could happen. These companies are shitty in that way. I think it's also true that people who before felt it was too inaccessible because of the economics or because of whatever to make games will now be able to make games with 80% of less than what it took before. Like before, if you wanted to make a game, you would be like, I got to find at least 10, 15 other people. But now maybe it could just be you and like 3 homies or 4 homies. So I think both are true. I do think like if the tech becomes good enough, the companies are going to react a certain way. But I do think we should also see a like rebirth of indie and more niche things across anywhere where AI impacts it, whether that's tech, whether that's gaming, whether that's whatever. And then there's also, which is like more of a theory that some people believe that I kind of prescribe to, which is like, also, there's no limit to innovation. So there will also be brand new things that took up the time that previous thing took up. Like maybe gaming does get hit hard and they don't recover. A new form of entertainment might be born that is only possible because of the AI innovation. So like old things might go away, but new things should also be coming in to replace it. And also, old things that become easier to do should empower more people to do them, and that's usually good for smaller teams.
Right.
So again, it's like a mixed bag. I think with AI, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. We'll just have to see what ends up happening.
I kind of want to segue this a little bit into art and creative, because the other day I found something very interesting. I didn't get time to really research into it, but I had the gist of it. So, I don't know if you heard, but like, I think I sent it to you, but Timbaland actually signed an artist, an AI artist. Like, he's starting to create something. And, of course, that's going to bring a lot of angry people about that. But in my opinion, and I want to hear your take too, but in my opinion, I think it's okay if somebody like Timbaland decides to do something like that, because in reality, a producer does that, right? A producer may not be able to sing, but they know exactly how they want their artist to sing on their beat, right? To me, I think this is a great idea. I think in some ethical, moral sense, it might be also an issue, because it might, there might be an artist out there that's losing an opportunity. But to argue that, I would say, have you seen the rap game recently? I'm not trying to sound like an old head, but it's terrible now. It's like there's no like, it wasn't like back in the day when our parents where they had people like Prince, that are actually actual artists that are doing everything. I mean, think about it like this. Artists now, even if they have a good sound, they're not even writing their own lyrics. So is it that really different from AI if you think about it? You know what I mean? Like, if the artist is just there to sing, then it's like almost as if you are using a surrogate to do this, right?
I don't know. That point, I'm not sure about, right? Because, like, let's say, I think it was very common. I think only rap is unique in putting lyricism at a high bar. My understanding is most genres, you'll pay a songwriter,
right,
you'll pay a composer, you'll pay a singer, you'll pay whatever. So, like, that seems like normal music to have like an economy of people. But that's let's put that aside. The Timbaland thing, I didn't look too much into it either.
Yeah.
But from what I saw, the real problem was they used illegally. They used the music of artists to train their AI. So like they took all your music and all your beats that you made yourself,
right,
trained it, and in the best case, it's making sounds similar to you, that it learned off of you without you giving it permission to do that, or the company, or you getting no check, no nothing. In the worst case, it's just ripping your sound. I saw one example of a beat from a producer with his tag, and then Timbaland produced the beat, and it was that guy's same tag in the produced beat. Like his
that's terrible.
So like, I think
that's so great.
Issue. I think that's valid. Like that's all that.
I agree to you.
If you have a genuine AI that like just makes music and it's not, you remove all those parts, I agree with you where it's like it's just a new tool for creation.
Now I agree with you to a certain extent. I will say this is very specific what I'm going to say here, but throughout history we've seen talented artists that, because they have no connections whatsoever, they get signed to a big label. And what that label does is that they do a very good job of manipulating their contracts where they don't own their own music. Now, I would say that it would be very interesting that even Timbaland, I'm sure Timbaland has music out there that he doesn't even have masters of, but it's his music, right? This is actually a way for them to take back what they actually created. So in that sense, I agree to that. And if they can do that, then I'm like, well,
it's interesting because it's like two layers, right?
Yeah.
Like today, they're not even paying the music industry that they trained on that data. So like, they're not just fucking over the artists, they're also like, they just skip the whole system. What's going to probably happen is they're going to sign a check to the music industry and the artists will still be fucked over.
That's,
but they'll be able to get away
the problem.
with it.
That I wouldn't agree with.
That's not even, they haven't even gotten to that point. They just ripped everyone's music just cause. That's what they needed to do. They felt to be to make a good product. But I think that's where people have issues, and I think that's valid. I think it's also valid that that basically, to me, that needs to be sorted out. If you don't sort that out, then this doesn't work. This whole model doesn't work. Because even if you just
then somebody from the record label industry would reach out to like the governments and, you know, try to get a like a policy sign.
Well, not even just that. Let's just say they get away with it. They get away with it. The problem is music evolves and changes. And today, AI creates based off of training data.
Yeah.
And there's a big question about how do you continuously train AI beyond the training data? And I think for some of that, it's kind of like easier to answer than other stuff.
Yeah.
I think music's a harder one because if you have no more people creating sounds and movement, then it's just the music's gonna go stale. Right. So they need that ecosystem needs like AI music needs human creators to help sustain it. If it's just AI creators, it's going to eventually hit them.
But I don't think we'll ever have that. I don't think it would ever get to the point where it's going to be scarce, because you know what? I seen as a DJ, you know, I'm always looking for new music, so I don't limit myself to the usual Spotify or YouTube. I'm also looking at all platforms. I discovered plenty of artists on TikTok, and like, you know how, you know, the music industry is very superficial. Like, you could have amazing voice, you could have amazing songwriting, but if you don't look the part, they're not going to sign you, right? So like, I think in that sense, it will help some people. And I think there's always going to be people like that. There are going to be people out there that have great art, but because they don't have the connections or even know where to like get who to get to, you know, if they're smart enough, they could be working with AI models to, you know, level up their game. I mean, we've seen two big artists that kind of did that, you know, that kind of used avatar or like a surrogate to create their identity, which is Gorillaz and Daft Punk, right?
I thought it was Kanye singing about his cousin.
No. I'm saying that they don't necessarily have to put themselves in the forefront.
Is a great example.
Yeah,
because they were digital and he just did it on the iPad.
Yeah,
and it was phenomenal art. And you can't argue the art of that.
I'm not trying to. And I'm sure he knows this, but no disrespect to the main guy who created the Gorillaz, but I seen him perform live one time, and that was pretty cringy. You know, like, it was pretty bad. Like, I see why him showing his identity through Gorillaz was successful, and not him doing it himself. I feel like if he had done it himself, he looked very
different mediums. I think there's nothing wrong with using different tools for mediums. We could see that in anime too. Like, if mangas didn't exist, this whole medium of creatives wouldn't, like, there's nothing wrong with it. For me, the issue, or where I disagree specifically with the Timbaland scenario, is how they went about. They basically stole, right?
No, I agree with that.
I understand also that, like, that's the music business. The music business has been stealing. But people hate that. But here's my thought. One, just because you've been pillaged since history doesn't mean you have to be okay with keep getting pillaged. But also for Timbaland specifically, you know, man, like, if the argument is like, this is the game, the music industry, people hate the music industry, so everyone can justifiably start hating you too.
Right, that's true.
If you start becoming a reflection of the industry doesn't get a pass. People hate the music industry. So, like, you know, if he's really, and I think the Timbaland argument specifically is like interesting only because I guess everyone makes their trades. The path he's on right now, he's trading his legacy for profit. But he may not feel that way. He may feel AI may become so big and so prominent that it'll mask that he did this shitty thing, and people will just continue to view him as a pioneer. Like maybe that's his gamble, but as of right now, he's just ruining his legacy. It's not a good look when he makes a beat. The beat he made has a producer's tag on there.
That is crazy.
Not a good look.
But I mean, let's be real though. I mean, that's what kind of AI is anyway, right? I mean, ChatGPT got caught plenty of times, like taking people's private information to train their models. Yeah, I mean,
all
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, I mean, we'll see how it comes from it. You know, I hope. Yeah, ethically, it's wrong to be stealing other artists, especially if it's artists that has nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, we saw that he did that with I kind of want to listen to that to hear the drop on it. How did you not sit there and just be like, all right, you know, tell the AI, hey, can you take that drop out? You know what I mean? Like, let me see if you could pull it up. I could screen share it.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit to you.
Just send it to me and I'll go ahead pull it up for us.
Fucking 10-second version of this shit. What's this? Up in the top.
Let me open my browser real quick. Let me go into incognito because I don't want. And I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I keep saying Timberland, but it's Timbaland. Timbaland.
Why am I not able to? That's strange.
Yeah, here we go. I think this is it.
Wait, hold on. Let me. I don't know why I'm not able to. I'm just gonna make a. Let me try this. Oh yeah, here we go. I got it. What the hell is this?